Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, it's a pleasure to be speaking to you today. Thank you for taking time out on a Saturday morning, by the way. I really appreciate it. Henry, let me start with something. You know, I think it was 2014. We were there at the Kenya Takeoff Conference. Madame Lagarde had come. There was a real feeling of excitement of Kenya taking off. Do you feel, when you look back at that period to now, how would you characterize what's happened, and how would you characterize where we are?
Well, yes, you're right. I mean, about 2 years ago, we had this big conference of Africa Rising, and of course Kenya. At that particular point, we were looking at entering the frontier economy as such, and obviously things were very, very rousy from the international scene. We were seeing a lot of optimism return to interest by investors to Africa, and obviously we saw a bigger opportunity at that particular time to unlock the adults that face our economies, particularly in Kenya, which in this case, we wanted to invest more in infrastructure, deal with the challenges of energy costs, and fill in the big infrastructure gap that we've had. And so the opportunity presented itself, low interest rates globally, and that is why we had the intention to borrow from the international market to unlock our infrastructure challenges. So we obviously took advantage of that, but now the situation has also changed from the global arena. As you know, many things have happened. We've had commodity prices come down. U.S. economy has strengthened, with now the talk of interest rates hikes in the U.S. China economy has also slowed down, and now rebalancing, trying to be more consumer-oriented than export-oriented. So all this put together has changed the scenario a little bit where we are now. The interest rate hike in the U.S. has, of course, led capital flights more to the U.S. In that case, all currencies in the world has weakened, including ours.
But you know, when I was looking at the data, and if you look at our currency, it's lost about 11%. I think, about that. And then if you factor in the carry, because you'd get interest, yes, it hasn't done that badly. If you look at the Rand, down 20%, the Zambian Kwacha. So do you think in some ways we are just all obsessing on the shilling, but we haven't done that badly with the shilling?
Well, you're absolutely you're right, and our currency has depreciated by around 17-20% there, which has done far much better than our regional peers. For example, you mentioned about Zambia, Ghana, South Africa, and all that. They have seen their currencies weaken by bigger margin than.
So on a trade-weighted basis, our currency has done okay.
Definitely, and obviously, yes. Just picking on the trade-weighted, obviously, it may even imply that our currency looks much more stronger than other currencies, because if others are weakening vis-a-vis the dollar and the euro more than ours, then we can lose competitiveness, and that is something that we are monitoring to ensure that is our weakening gonna create sort of loss of competition. Because it is important for our export.
So particularly for Uganda, Tanzania, has that affected us because if you look at the Uganda shilling, it was much weaker, Tanzania shilling, these are our biggest trading partners.
Correct, and that is the reason why we want to ensure that we manage our currency also, so that it doesn't look much stronger than other currencies. So depreciation should be more or less commensurate to what is happening in other countries. And I think this is now where probably our response was so strong in terms of adjusting interest rates upward to stem the depreciation.
You're talking about the sharp rise we saw.
Correct.
But which is now eased off, because I mean, I think we were over 23% momentarily in the one-year T-bill.
Yes.
And last time I saw it had an 11% handle, and you had actually gone on an interview and said it's going to come down in a very short time, and everyone laughed and said, "Oh, that's not possible." Do you remember? The response was very cynical when you said that.
Well, yes, it was a temporary phenomenon, obviously, because we knew that the central bank was responding to the weakening of the exchange rate, which was, as we have just said, it was a global phenomenon. But obviously, we wanted to manage it in a way that we didn't want it to start affecting the economy. So the response was obviously right, but the interest rates probably may have also overshot or responded quite dramatically to a point where, again, it created challenges in our economy. So we knew that this was going to be temporary, and that is why, working together with the central bank, we unwound that situation by ensuring ample liquidity and stabilizing the situation. And indeed, within a few weeks, we saw rates coming down, systematically down, up to the current level now, which is 9.2 for the 91-day T-bill.
Yeah. So if I just now talk in general terms about the economy, and I'll come back to the Eurobond. Yes. If you look at, some of our expectations for this year, quite high. I remember at the time of the budget, we had an implied GDP inflate of around 7%. What's happening in our economy, Henry? You're the man at the apex. How do you feel about the economy? Is it going to do 5% this year? Are you confident of that? Do you think it's got its own internal momentum? Or do you think we've had a slowdown?
Yeah, sometimes late last year and this year, we were obviously very optimistic in light with what we were seeing, the sectors that were supporting this growth. The constructions were doing very well, especially with the starting of the construction of the standard gauge rail.
Yes. Alone,
that we estimated it was going to contribute to 2% growth in GDP. Yes. And obviously we were fixing security, which was a challenge, which had created a toll on our tourism industry. All those together, and obviously a favorable weather condition for agriculture. Those three sectors we expected to drive our economic growth to over 6%. Yes. And that is why in our last budget policy statement, we did look at this year and next year at around 6.5 going to 7 in the medium term. Now, since then, and just mentioned this, two things have happened. The global situation has a little bit deteriorated with respect to commodity prices. In a way, yes, it was also good for Kenya.
Because if you look at the swing in the oil price.
Correct, yes. Yeah. With the low oil prices, it was good for us. But at the same time, the low commodity prices also has affected growth in emerging markets and other European countries, which again has hit on the demand for exports, together with the capital also investments coming in. So on balance, then we've had a sort of a revision of our growth to now we are looking at 5 and 5.8.
Yes. What, next 2 years?
No, for this year.
For this year.
And growing back again to 6.5 in the medium term. So, and this is much lower than the 6.5 growing to 7 in the medium term. And everybody has revised growth. If you look at the last, when we were in Peru, you had the World Economic, in the World Economic Outlook. Yes. And there, the global growth was revised from 3.7 to 3, and sub-Saharan African growth was revised from 4.3 to 3.7. Yes,
which is the lowest rate since 2008.
Correct. And for us in Kenya, we are still forecasting growth well above those. So it does indicate that, yes, there have been challenges, but still our growth prospects is still robust and much favorable than other sub-Saharan African countries, which now on average they have been is being forecasted to grow by 3.7. Ours Q1 was 5.3. We think the rebound in tourism, agriculture, and the construction sector, which is buoyed by the standard gauge construction and all that, together should keep growth at over 5.5.
So you're reasonably optimistic?
We are reasonably optimistic, but of course lowered a little bit from earlier on in the year, which happens. You know, we have to, you see, 6 months down the line, what was obtaining has changed, and this is very common. Some things are beyond our control. Global developments sometimes are really hard to put an handle on it in terms of forecast. So they keep on changing. Same for IMF, they revise it twice in a year. If you look at the World Economic Outlook in January this year,
it was more optimistic.
More optimistic. When we met again in the annual meetings with IMF, different total scenario.
So you're saying you think that Kenya is actually in a better place than much of sub-Saharan Africa at the moment?
Precisely.
Yes.
And numbers are exactly saying that.
Do you not feel that perception is not out there at the moment? It seems, and I don't know whether it's political or what has happened, but it seems that a different perception. You know, people seem to be questioning our place. The way you're describing it, we're in a reasonably good place.
And it's not really me alone interpreting it that way. Go to other international forums. Go out of Kenya.
Yes.
Whenever I go and meet investors there, I meet my colleagues, ministries of finance. They are actually talking more optimistic about Kenya than Kenyans. Yeah. And keep on wondering why is really that's the case. I think probably, you know, locally here we are not so much following what's also happening globally. Yes. We are too much over concentrated of every day consuming the whole, you know, politics on the ground here, and there isn't a lot of analysis or talk about business, Kenya, global, how are these affecting us and all that, to a point where people just forget that really Kenya prospects are far much viewed internationally, much rosy than Kenyan view of the country. It's unfortunate though. We should have actually been seeing Kenyans getting more proud about how the state of our economy is. Unfortunately, I think there are too many negativities surrounding us. Until, you know, with too many negativities, people also become hopeless. Yes. Or you know, there's some despair. So I think because it really gets me also very, you know, in a very awkward situation here. You go out there, you meet this bunch of investors. They just want to bring money here. Tell us where the projects are. Tell us where we hear your economy is doing very well, very well managed. Your president is very dynamic. He's sorting out everything. Can we come in? What sectors? What are? But when you come here, yes, the story of a Kenyan investor here is so pessimistic, and I think it's because the news that goes around is so much negative in a way that yes. Yeah. So we're caught in this situation that every day you just open a paper, you're following either a story that was there last year, It is being brought back again in different ways and all that. And that seems to be really what people like to be hearing or reading every day, which is unfortunate. And I think that really needs to change in a way, because investors are the same, whether you're a domestic and foreign investor, the same. You will see the same thing. You see the optimism. But fortunately, when I meet also private investors here, manufacturers and all that, members of the private sector,
yes,
they are share the same optimism with foreign investors.
yes,
they are very confident about the economy. The noises that they hear is, yes, this is the noise that we always have to have. Yeah, they are able to separate the two. I think it's the ordinary Kenyan that are too much consumed with this politics, and that's not a good thing.
Let me now go to the Eurobond, which is the politics that we're talking about in a way. Yeah. This was the largest issue by a sub-Saharan African issuer, 2 billion. Then you tapped it for 750 million. I mean, at that time, if someone had said that Kenya was going to raise 2.75 billion, not many people would have believed it, I think. The all-in rate you got was a very good rate, I think, for the 5-year and the 10-year. If you look back at it now, or you compare it to interest rates that some of our peers are paying, I think Ghana's in double digits, I think Zambia's in double digits. So it was a great success, right? I mean, clearly, and congratulations for that. Now, there's a lot of debate around this, Henry, you know, and it's become extremely political. Why don't you explain to us, from your perspective, what has happened with that Eurobond, the proceeds? You know, I think today David Ndii in The Nation is saying we should be the most liquid government ever in independence history. Why don't you tell us what has happened and explain to us from your point of view?
Yeah, definitely. I think you are right. When we went to the international market to borrow this, it's the same thing I was just telling you, the optimism there. I met virtually all these investors.
You went on a road
during
show.
The roadshow,
yes,
and the interest was really very high. And the story we provided was obviously a story that was resonated very well with the Kenyan economy, where we are going, the economic agenda that we had put in place. Just recall the Africa Rising and all that. So we put all this together, and investors understood Kenya very, very well, and they had heard a lot about Kenya and all that. So that culminated then into our oversubscription in the bond that we were floating in June last year. I myself was in London when we were seeing the subscriptions coming in, very huge, you know, and the rates that we were now picking were very competitive.
Your timing was very good, actually.
Obviously, yes. These are part of the things that you have to do. The timing is also important, and the credit story that we had told investors during the roadshow. And yes, it's true, the 10-year we got 6.875, the 5-year we got 5.875. These were very competitive rates, and to a point even investors were saying, this is almost for economy having a B+ in credit rating, and emerging economies, which we have been giving these rates, I mean, it's almost like an investment grade economy. And rightly so, what we saw was very, very good.
So that was a big vote of confidence.
Correct.
In Kenya Inc., right?
Correct. Despite even the challenges that we had at that time, I remember the day we were actually when investors were now subscribing, we had an attack in Lamu.
Yes.
In Peketoni. Yeah. And in that morning, we were about to say, okay.
Were you worried?
I think, exactly. The big thing, not even worried, you know, the issue was that should we really go to the market now? This is news that have come. And we sat and say, I remember calling from London, talking to then the Interior Minister and the police. What is happening there? Is it that bad and all that? Because I had to do another conference
where people
there in London,
about it. Yes,
to assure investors that all is well. And gathering that information quickly, we had to give another assurance, because you have to do due diligence every now and then. And we agreed to go ahead with we indicated that was an isolated case, and this is challenges that we are addressing with all this terror attack and all that. And we went ahead. So despite even that morning, we managed to get very competitive rates. So there was a really very good optimism on Kenya, and really I was so elated by the interest out there.
Yes.
And it's exactly the same thing we were just saying a few minutes ago, that outside there is different story. Here is completely a different story. So that was the Eurobond.
Yes.
We got the money. Of course, we have explained how this money.
Why don't you just explain that again?
Yes, this transaction was the first.
Yeah.
And clearly we were to follow the international steps on how these things are undertaken. So once investors have subscribed to the money has to be all collected together and deposited in now the account that we give them.
Yes. So you had two accounts, I think, a Citibank one. And
we had the first one for the first original issue of 2 billion was with the JP Morgan.
Yes.
In New York. So all the money came to that account, and of course, with these international transactions, there are some costs that have to be netted out.
So I thought the costs were very low. Actually, I was impressed. To raise 2 billion, how much did you pay in costs?
The costs were actually, because
I couldn't believe
it was about zero. I think it was 0.5 of that, which is very competitive, because the lead arrangers here really wanted to syndicate Kenya's bond.
Yes.
Yeah, it was obviously going to be prestigious.
Yes.
First debut.
I thought that was a very competitive.
And they knew the market, and they knew the market that was. That they were selling. So it was very competitive. And these were 4 lead arrangers sharing that money.
Yes.
You can imagine. So it was extremely very competitive. The fees were among the competitive that we have never seen before. And of course, there are legal charges, of course, documentation, preparing the big documentations. And these are standard practice, and that was that. The other, of course, requirement was that, as you know, we had taken a syndicated loan.
So you have 600 million.
600 million. Maturing. One of the conditions that as you get the money, pay off this. Because typically, you don't want to have another debt running here. You are accumulating another. So sort out this so that you're cleaning this, or sort of really refinancing, so to speak. So that was done.
Yes.
And there was a lot of people were questioning the legal provision for that, but we have explained that again. Clearly, there was the.
But why is anyone cautioning that? You take a loan out, you got to pay it back, right? I mean,
precisely.
Well,
Some are saying, did the controller of budget approve? Yes, we have controller of budget approval to pay this money.
Yeah.
It was to be netted out.
Yes.
The law provides for netting.
Yes.
That we amended in 2014. So really, and the documentations, the accounts movements are there. We have supplied that. It is now in our website.
Yes.
Yesterday during my conference, I did again table the same document. I've given even it to. This is one of the questions asked by the opposition leader Raila Odinga. We gave him. So all that is up is available. Those who want to scrutinize that account, we can provide the bank statement from JP Morgan. So that's open for everybody to scrutinize. It was government account, so anybody can view government account. There's no problem with that.
You know, there was some responses in the last 2 days saying, oh, there's been some jiggery-pokery on the domestic borrowing side.
Let me come to that.
Yeah.
Then money came to our consolidated fund here.
Yes.
After all those fees and netting out of the syndicated loan, money came to the central bank here, which is our banker and holder of our consolidated fund. Money was all put there. And then spending as usual. We had indicated that we are going to spend this money now for our budgetary needs and in particular infrastructure spending after paying the syndicated loan.
Yes.
That's precisely what we did.
Yes.
We were very careful selecting ministries that have infrastructure projects, and that is why you see the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport, big recipient, Ministry of Energy, recipient, Ministry of Agriculture, there were works going on in Galana, recipient, and many other, Ministry of Water, and many other things. And by the way, I think one thing that needs also to be noted is that when we inherited this office, Ministry of Transport, which is the three agencies, Kena, Kura, and Kera, together had a road portfolio of 120 billion
that they wanted to implement.
Yes, which was actually committed in the last regime.
Have they implemented that?
We had to continue to implement, because I'm talking of 2013. Immediately when the first budget I did, we had 120 billion portfolio of roads, which in the last regime they launched it with only 10%. So if you are launching a road which is worth 2 billion to construct, and you have only put 10%, the 90% was unfunded. So all these roads distributed in everywhere, even including Raila's area, lot of roads, and they were not funded. And this is the reason why we had to look for funding. Otherwise, those projects would have been either stopped or to be implemented over 10 years or whatever years. And you know that the cost of delays payment, because contractors are on the ground, you are not paying them, certificates are maturing. So that is the reason why it was necessary to get money. Either you borrow domestically, we didn't want to push interest rates high. We wanted, and there was an opportunity out there which we just talked about. Interest rates were zero in abroad. Why not pick this money? And that is why it was successful like that. Then the money came. We continued to implement, actually doing the roads, same roads, to ensure that contractors are on the ground. And up to now, I think in this financial year, we are now completing most of those 120 roads portfolio. And we have not actually launched new roads. And that's why we say we wanted to do in annuity, we wanted to do in other modes.
Yes.
And all these were pending bills that needed to be paid. And of course, there was also donor-funded roads, which again we are supposed to provide 30%, the donor funding 70%. Yeah. So these are some. When I hear people talking of where are these roads, where are these projects, where are these, they know very well that there are contractors doing roads in their constituencies. Very well, they know.
Yes.
And here they are asking, show us where is this, Anyway, we funded in 2013, 2014, 14, 15, and these roads are continuing. Now I see we are clearing them. Some are now ready. Yes. When I see Go up country there, you see a few tarmac roads. These are the roads I was talking about.
Yes.
And needed funding. And we provided funding, and that is why the Ministry of Infrastructure, Energy, there were many things. GDC was drilling and all that to get things done. Transmission lines had to be done to evacuate power, and we had to fund Ketraco and all that. And these are, anyway, we are compiling this list so that we can provide now, so this is how we have been spending money. Let me come to this issue where again, and that is why when we invited the former Prime Minister to come here, because I saw he was very interested on numbers.
Yes.
You know, the clerical numbers that he wants. If that is what he wants to prove the point, then we were ready to do that. We were ready to take him, and that is why. You know,
you invited him.
It is really unfortunate that you go and misinterpret the numbers.
Yes.
And of course, because you enjoy the hearing, the political hearing there. When you go there, you just throw in a number there, and you don't get the benefit of being explained. So that's really unfortunate. When I was here yesterday, I said, okay, let's take you. This 140, where are you claiming that is? Now I see today saying this is we cooked the numbers to get 140. I think one thing that needs to be explained. You know, reading the fiscal, and again I read the article for the cynical economist. Every time I read it, I used to read his articles, but now I've lost confidence about a little bit about how he writes. You know, I at some point he had some respect in how he puts things, but now I think he's just been hired to write anything, which of course, as an economist, you can write anything. You know, you can assume anything, and put, which is fine. You know, it's fine, but obviously he has an agenda. But unfortunately, he knows how Eurobonds are conducted. But he has chosen a line to put it. But I'm ready also to tell him to take him through the fiscal accounts. I must tell you that when I was also joined here, and even in Central Bank, to understand some of those fiscal accounts took a while. It takes a while. You know, for you to understand, you know, revenue, expenditure, fiscal balance, financing, and all these, and how you put together. You don't just, you know, pick there, and you need to be told what is domestically. When you say domestically financed, what is the component and that. And I just come to this point because I think this is the point that I see now. Raila is hanging on it as to portray this transaction with that. The issue really is that when we got the money in the last financial year, we started 14-15 fiscal year with deposits. This now turned into deposits.
So you'd converted it by this stage into shillings?
Yes, when it came to consolidated fund now, they are our deposits at the central bank. They are not new borrowing now as it's been interpreted. So that's when we say domestically financed. Is that because we borrowed this money in the last financial year, and that is why the syndicate, the tap sell down we did was reflected there as new borrowing that financial year. But the rest that had been borrowed and were already deposits there, all these were treated as domestically financed. So where you are looking at 250, it's basically 140 plus 120, 110 borrowing that we did that financial year. So together becomes our money available here to spend on domestically financed infrastructure. So above the line there, you will see domestically financed. Below the line, you will see a combination in the application. We have combined this as domestically financed. In the other one, we have shown both of them separate, 140 and 110. And they add together. 140 plus 110 is 250. So basically, I don't understand where that is a understating of domestic borrowing,
Yes.
it cannot be understated. How can it be understated? And clearly, these are shown. These are all our deposits at the central bank. We are still ready to still take them line by line.
Yes.
You know, to understand this. Unfortunately, I wouldn't have the time to go in the barazas there
Yes.
and tell people, you know,
This is the line by line.
this is line by line explanation. I say, if you come here and you are shown, fine, you will understand. If he doesn't want to come here, let him bring these bring Kinandi and the other things. We take them line by line so that they understand.
Yes.
Probably that is what they need.
So let me finish off with this question. You know, when the government was appointed, it was considered one of the most technocratic governments, of which you're considered a technocrat. Your background is professional. It's not politics as such, is it? Right?
Yeah.
Now, I remember reading an article saying the previous most technocratic government was a US government. I can't remember under whom, but it was some, and saying it was quite a challenge for the technocrats to operate in the political space. What you've been talking to me about right now is, in a way, is that challenge, isn't it? Because you are, in a way, the responses are political. The answers that you're giving are, you know, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the challenge comes in when, and I can give this example right away, is that we want to give the right professional answer to this. But usually they turn out to be very technical and all that. However much we simplify, in even the notes that we have provided for Kenyans to understand.
This is on the website.
On the website.
Yes.
This question has been asked in Parliament. We have appeared in Parliament several times. We have explained our budget policy statement in the budget committee several times. So it's not the budget review and outlook paper. We have just laid in Parliament. The budget committee may call me and we discuss. So these ones we always do that. Anybody who has a question on that, we do that. Now, this example now of twisting 140, just because first you have not been taken through and understood. If you have your own presentation thinking, that maybe if it's presented like this, I will understand it better. That's neither there or anyway. I mean, we can make it simplified as much as possible. No harm. But this is the standard way how fiscal accounts are presented, and as I said, it is tough. But now, if you pick that number and then run away with it in the political setup where I cannot be there, where I cannot be there. To also say, okay, you have said this and this. Can I also get the same forum to say this? It doesn't happen because we are not appointed to do that.
Yes.
I'm not there to go and wave in the barazas. This is this and this. No, and probably that's the challenge. And
that's what I mean.
But this is our constitution. You know, this is what Kenyans chose. Kenyans chose. Well, maybe we came from that scenario where.
Yes.
Numbers are politicized.
Yes.
But now we want professionals to deal with this matter, and that's it. But now we are still, you know, maybe people got used to the other dispensation,
Yes.
where we were parliamentary or semi-presidential or a mix, you know, so to speak. So, yeah, ministers of finance here used to be politicians at the same time. So now, if I was a politician, I could be picking my accounts here,
Yes.
and I will also go to similar forum and also do the same. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what Kenyans really wanted us to be answering in that. I would say though, but although in the presidential systems, these things are also systematic. We have oversight institutions. In this case, the parliament. These are the committee. They have committees. They call us, and we explain them. Then them being politicians, they can spin it the way they want to spin it. If they feel like there is really a problem with it, If they want to run away and make politics out of political capital out of it, fine. But here is facts on the table, and these are the agencies or the oversight institutions that we are supposed to appear and explain. We are not supposed to appear in the public thing and explain. But the match we have done, like yesterday, was okay. Come and listen to me. Come all the press, media, come. We can probably also address this. I think we cannot be stopped to address the media and reach out Kenyans.
Of course.
We can do that. We also reach out to Kenyans by providing information to Parliament, because they are the representative of the people.
Yes.
In Parliament, they are both ruling members of Parliament, a ruling coalition, and opposition. In fact, the Public Accounts Committee alone is dominated by opposition. I have appeared there. I have provided the information. So I think the challenge is how now we conditionalize ourselves with the new setup. The new setup with the presidential system, and now people are still living in legacy of how they explain everything politically for it to be understood. And here we are having technocrats running ministries. Yes. and all that. I think overall that. But that is not really to say...
I saw the central banker made a very similar statement to what you're saying in an interview last week I read. He said he never understood the dimensions of the political economy, as it were. Yeah. And I think that's what you're talking about here as well.
Correct. And for us, of course, we understand that we live in a political setup. We... As much as we are supposed to provide the information, we also need to be sensitive about, the political environment we are living, and that is the reason we have to, try to manage this in a very difficult circumstance.
Let me finish off by asking you, what would you tell Kenyans right now? Are we in a good place? Are things going to get better? Are you optimistic?
Definitely, we are. We talked earlier on about our state of our economy, how we are looking at our growth and all that. I think we are good to go in many areas. We just want to find, put the right measures to accelerate our economic growth, to grow much faster. Yes. And that's why we are spending a lot of our time to make sure that the expenditures we have are productive. They are going to the right investments, be it in infrastructure or even if it's special spending, so that we create the capacity for the economy to expand much faster than we are growing. 5.5 is not enough. We have big policy challenges to deal with. Unemployment. We need to grow our economy to the tune of over 7 to 10%, double digits, for us to actually absorb the youth who are entering into the labor market on an annual basis. And we're looking at creating over 1 million jobs.
But can we do that?
Why not? And that is why we are saying let's fix the transport logistics. We're investing in transport, standard gauge rail. We are doing these roads I've just mentioned to you. We are bringing down the cost of energy even much further, because that is where investors will come in, take advantage of the low cost, and now we have a good opportunity that China is rebalancing. Yes. They are now going towards domestic consumption instead of exporting. So it is our turn now to begin to export to China.
Yes.
So
are we in a position to take that? Because I think when I speak to multinationals, they're very keen on Ethiopia. Do we have the ingredients?
We have, because I think we still have, good opportunities, far much even than Ethiopia. We need just to bring down our cost of power. I think Ethiopia's cost of power is slightly lower than ours, and I think we are fixing that problem. In terms of transport logistics, I think we are much better, and in terms of skilled manpower, we are doing a lot. So we have the capacity, as long as we don't get distracted so much. Every day we are dwelling with answering many things which are not of use so much, you know. Maybe, yes, because perception is an issue also, but we have to correct that. You know, perception is important so that investors, both even Kenyans themselves, can have confidence in the economy and invest. That's the investments that we require to increase our growth to double digits and deal with our social problems of unemployment, poverty, and inequality that still bedevils us just because historically these issues have not been resolved conclusively. So the transformation that needs to happen needs to happen quickly, and that is why we need every Kenyan to rally behind national policies that are making sense. And everybody talks about good policies that we are pursuing. I go to the international forum, they say, you guys are getting it right. Just focus on it. Put more effort on it. I think our president has put a lot of effort on this. Whenever he goes to the international forum, he galvanizes investors to come to Kenya and all that. So I think we're doing the right things and all that. Never mind the political noises that are there. They'll still be there, but still this noise should not affect the economy, because, like, for example, the issue of the Eurobond, because really if it turns out that somebody is really using this for political gains and all that, the cost that it has, the investors who are holding our bonds,
well, I was going to
are the people that worry me most. Yes. Fortunately, they are still confident about Kenya. They don't listen to all these because because they have been. I think they have known Kenyan. Fortunately, so that's the good thing. I would be worried now. People are saying, come to London, come to New York, and come and explain to us this money you came to tell us that is. Are you saying that this money disappeared and all that? But people know, when you speak to them, they say, "Oh, forget about those noises. Yes. We know how this transaction happened." So that is the comfort I have.
Yes, and I'll tell you one thing: international bondholders are the most aggressive when it comes to going after facts.
Correct.
And if those folks, have maintained confidence, I think, to me, that's a very important statement for Kenyans to know.
Precisely, and whenever I go out, I just meet these investors. Apart from, they are now become one part and parcel of it. Whenever, in fact, the invitations I have here, and I think it's good. Updating them about the economy is very important to them. You know, a bondholder who is in California there, he reads just papers, he reads the Wall Street, he reads the New York Times. Maybe once in a while goes to our internet, and then the internet here I say, "Oh, Eurobond money, Mrs. Brewer." Fortunately, I have not seen. In fact, as we speak now, a lot of people are saying, "When is Kenya coming back to the international market?" We will go back. Why not? Because we still want financing to deal with our sort of gaps in our infrastructure. We are not yet there. You know, we still need better roads than we have now for things to move in a swift way. We need more investment in energy. The economy is growing. When you are talking of growing by 10%, the demand for energy there will be huge. Yes. So we need to expand our transmission lines. We need to expand our generation capacity. We need to expand our water system. Water is important for factories and all that. These are infrastructural things that has to continue to be invested. You can't stop investment in infrastructure. If you go to China now, they are building buildings on top of another one, roads on top of another one, because the population are increasing. Look at Nairobi now. It's jamming. It's getting jammed. Even if we just growing at 5%. So if we grow by 10% and we have not expanded our roads,
yes,
we will just be in a standstill.
I'll never get to my
So
office.
investment infrastructure will continue. And we will do it within the context of a borrowing plan that does not undermine our debt sustainability and all that. Borrowing to invest in infrastructure, unlock the potential for the economy is good for the economy. Nobody should, because the generations that are ahead, our children, they will judge us harshly if we didn't do anything to fix the roads now. Yeah, if you are waiting for them, they will just say, "What were these guys doing?" So this is the right time to do it. Let's do what we need to do. If there is opportunity to take advantage of financing, if we don't take it, if we don't take advantage of it now, when U.S. Treasury bills are still at almost zero.
Yes.
When they rise.
Yes.
The reason why we could not borrow, even take a sovereign bond, the one we are talking about now, is because nobody could expose themselves to risks to lend to sub-Saharan Africa. Nobody. Nobody could lend. They could just lend in America, Europe, and a bit of what they call emerging economies, which they think
maybe
that these
South
are there.
Africa.
Yeah, South Africa, maybe Nigeria, Egypt there. But sub-Saharan Africa, it's only when interest rates came down and people saw returns, and they say it was worth lending to Africa. So why not take advantage at this particular time, fix our infrastructure and move on? Because this opportunity will disappear. US now are trying to raise their rates. The economies. If in the next 2 years, 3 years, the rates in America are high, we will not be able. We will be borrowing very costly, and again, our savings here are so low. We make a lot of noise about Eurobond here. When you ask Kenyans how much can you save to finance our infrastructure, nothing. We are talking of 12%, 13% savings rate. We need to save 30-40%. Kenyans must save half of their income
so
to rely on their savings.
Are you pushing that savings agenda?
That is why we really need...
The Emma Kiba, I saw...
Yes, we are doing that. We are providing, ensuring that we give new products for Kenyans to save. I think reforms in pensions, insurance are important. So that Kenyans can save more and invest in the economy. Otherwise, we rely on foreign savings, which is this money we are borrowing from all. Which again, if we want to borrow, we make a lot of noise about it. And yet, here we are not even saving, we are just consuming. We are just consuming what the little we have. So a little bit we need to be orderly if we really mean well. And I think a lot of Kenyans mean well. We really need to sit together and say, we need to separate what are these destructive, politics or whatever that comes in, and which are good. They can make noise and whatever. That's fine. People have to. We have the space to make all the politics that is there. That's fine. But also we have to give space also to implementation of policies, good policies that we have put in place, so that we deal with the three challenges that we face: youth unemployment, inequality, and poverty that are still high enough. Those are the critical things we need.
You're confident we can take off again?
Yes, we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Thank you.